welcome back to the Shutterbug Club podcast. I'm your host, Sue Shutterbug, and we have a guest on the podcast today. You'll only see him if you're on YouTube. This is my cat, Monster. You might be able to hear him purring. I'm not sure. Hold on. I'm going to put him closer to the mic. Okay, he got quiet now. But anyways, we actually don't have a guest. It's just me. We're doing a fun Q&A session today, though. I asked you guys to submit some questions on Instagram, and I'm going to be answering them on the podcast today. But before we get into that, let's just do a little... Oh my goodness. Okay, I might have to kick him out, actually, because I don't know if I can record with him in here. He's like trying to rub on the microphone. Okay, good. Just lay down right there. Okay, so we're going to do a little life update stuff because I feel like it's been a while since I just kind of talked and updated. I mean, there's not that much going on with me except for that yesterday I did my first content creation gig, which was really fun. I created content for a wedding coordinator at a wedding, and I loved it. Like, I thought that it would be super weird to not be the photographer at the wedding, but actually it was so much fun, and I didn't really miss not being the photographer. And so I feel like I want to do more content creation stuff and like make social media videos for businesses. I think it would be super fun to make social media videos for photographers because I have the most experience with that. And I think it'd just be fun to like follow somebody to a photo shoot or a wedding and then create some social media content for them because I love doing that kind of stuff. I just love thinking about new ways to market and do stuff like that. Also, I've been reading a lot this year, which has been fun. I'm reading like the Fourth Wing series still I talked about earlier. I'm on the second book and I like it a lot so far. I'm still pretty new to reading, so like figuring out what kind of books I like and stuff, but I do really like this series. So if you've read it, like send me a message, let's chat about it because it's pretty good. Okay, so let's get into some questions that you guys submitted. The first one, how do you find and attract high value clients? This is a really good question and something that is great to think about like who your target audience is, what kind of clients you want to attract instead of just taking everybody who comes to you. So my first tip for finding high value clients is to first define what a high value client is to you, because this could mean a lot of things. This could be somebody who books your most expensive package, like maybe you're talking about somebody who just spends a lot of money with you, or maybe it's somebody who gives you the creative freedom during a photo shoot. It could be somebody who books with you for quality over price. So maybe price isn't even a concern for them. They just want to work with you regardless of your price because they like your work. I think that would be like the ideal client, is somebody who truly just wants to work with you. But once you've defined to yourself what a high value client is, then my next tip would be to be super intentional about what you show in your portfolio and on social media. Okay, my other cat just joined us. She just opened my door. So, yeah, we have the cats in here today. Okay. So, in your portfolio, which my portfolio is actually like my Instagram because I book the majority of my clients through Instagram, and that's where they find me, and they'll scroll through my Instagram and look at my photos. But you can also have a portfolio like on your website where you post your work. So in your portfolio, I want you to post the type of work that you want to attract. And this can be really hard, especially as a beginner, when you don't really know what kind of work you want to do and you're kind of just taking a little bit of everything, and that's completely fine. But as for me, I've kind of narrowed down that I really like the creative, artistic, moody senior photos or just like self-love photos. And so that's what I've been posting on Instagram. And I even stopped posting couples so much and I stopped booking couples. And I thought that was really cool to see how that worked, which I do like doing couples and I take on couple photo shoots sometimes, but I stopped posting so much couples on my social media and I stopped getting inquiries for couples. And so it's crazy to see just like how much power that has and how it works. And so the kind of stuff that you post and that you have on your website, your portfolio is really going to determine what kind of clients you attract. So you want to make sure you're posting your best work. Something that will also help you attract these high quality clients is by posting behind the scenes of what it's like to work with you. So not just the final photos, but show them show them who you are, show them the kind of personality that you have and that you bring to a session, like what it's like for you to pose them, how you work with your posing, and just what it's like to do a photo shoot with you from start to finish. That would be a great thing to post on social media. And when you do this, I feel like you're going to get people who are attracted to your type of personality and they just feel like they kind of already know you already from social media. And so it's going to be easier to work with you. For me, I feel like the type of clients, okay, I wouldn't say I have like a specific personality type of clients that I like to book with, but one thing I've found is that I'm really good at working with shy clients, especially because I used to be so shy. Like through high school, I was super quiet, super shy, very unsure of myself, and I've just found that I work really well with these clients and I can get them to warm up pretty easy because I know what it's like to just be quiet and shy. But I feel like that's something I attract a lot in my work is these people who are a little bit shy or don't typically like photos of themselves. And I share a lot about that through my social media content, just showing who I am. So, yeah, just show who you are, show the behind the scenes, what it's like to work with you, and you will attract clients who are attracted to you. The next thing to consider when attracting high value clients is your price. And I'm not going to talk too much about pricing, but sometimes if your prices are too low, people might assume that your work is not high quality because typically the price that you charge reflects the value you offer. My cat is stretching out on the table. I'm sorry. He's so distracting this episode, but okay, typically the price you charge reflects the value you offer, and there's definitely a time to not charge a lot for photos. Like when I first started, I was charging $50 to $75 for a photo shoot for like my first year, and that's because I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the knowledge, the editing skills, all of that. And now I'm very comfortable in my prices because I've invested so much into education, into photography. I've had a lot of experience with gear malfunctions, client difficulties, and so I have the kind of value that I can charge more because I know how to deal with certain situations and I can make a session go very smoothly and just have fun. And so somebody who's looking for a photo shoot like that, where it's going to be fun, it's going to be smooth, you know what you're doing, they're going to be fine with paying a little bit more than somebody who is just price searching, somebody who just wants to get the cheapest photos they can. Because typically those clients are not the best clients to work with. People who don't actually care about you, don't actually care about the photos or the art itself. They just simply want cheap photos. So consider your prices and consider if your price matches the value you offer. And my biggest tip for figuring out your price, because I know it's really difficult to figure out pricing, who doesn't struggle with pricing, but my biggest tip for you is going to be to experiment with it. I change my pricing all the time. And I know there's some photographers who only change it like once a year. I see a lot of posts towards the end of the year, like the end of the new year, and they'll say, like, book with me before I raise my pricing. And I mean, that's fine to do that, but I change my pricing multiple times during the year and just experiment, see what people are willing to pay because you might be surprised. One person I love when it comes to pricing is India Earl. She has some really good resources and stuff, and she has an incredible story. Like, her photography story is really incredible. And she basically was like super broke living out of her car, being a photographer, and then she decided to charge like $20,000 for a wedding. Like, she just put it on her pricing guide just to see what happens, and then she had multiple people book that package. And so yeah, she has a really interesting pricing perspective on that. Okay, and then my last tip for getting high value clients is going to be to really just focus on your client experience. Make sure you are giving these clients a good client experience because high value clients are going to expect a good client experience. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog bark outside. My window is literally right by where she hangs out outside, so she's kind of loud sometimes. Some things that you can do to work on your client experience is going to be to respond to clients right away, respond to inquiries right away. And one thing I like to use is Honeybook, which is a CRM. It stands for Client Relations Management, something like that, like a client relationship system. And Honeybook is great because it has a lot of workflows you can put into place to make it easier to communicate with your clients and just make the process more seamless for yourself and for your clients. And you can set up email automations. And so you can have an email that goes out as soon as somebody inquires with you that says, just like, hey, thanks for reaching out. This is when you can expect to hear back from me, or even just sends like your pricing guide right away. And so your clients are hearing from you right away because this is a really important thing to help with the client experience, is to get back to them when they need the service or they're going to feel like you're unreliable or want to go with somebody else. And then just to get a better client experience, you just want it to be as seamless and stress free as it can be. You don't want them to have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to work with you or to be confused during any part of the booking process. You want to try and answer all of their questions before they even have them. You're going to get higher value clients if they don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to work with you, because I feel like typically the people who have more money, who are willing to invest in a good service, don't have a bunch of time to go through this like really complicated back and forth booking process. They want to save time and they want to just like put down their deposit and get the photo shoot ready. So I feel like by having these client relationship systems and investing the money into making your client experience better, one, that's going to give you another reason to raise your prices because you're already providing more value. And two, you're just going to attract better clients. Okay, so just recap how to attract higher quality clients. First one, figure out who those clients are to you. Second, be intentional about what you show in your portfolio and on social media. Third, consider your price. Does your price reflect the value you offer? And fourth, focus on your client experience. Okay, next we have a couple editing questions. And I just want to start this off by I'm going to be completely real with you about editing. Editing is something I have struggled with a lot through my photography journey because I feel like my style is changing all the time. I cannot decide on what I like because my mood changes all the time. I sometimes I'm feeling very moody and I want my photos to be like very moody, very like muted colors, and then sometimes I want them to be more true to color, and it really just depends on how I feel in the moment, and that can be hard because a lot of the time your clients are booking you because of your editing style, and like the editing style kind of defines a photographer. And so I feel like it's almost perceived as bad to not have a consistent editing style, but I don't think this is true at all. Like, I've come to terms with my editing style, and I'm fine with just like switching it up and not being as consistent, I would say, as most people or photographers are. And if this is you, don't let it stress you out. Like, just experiment with it, because I'm doing that all the time, and I still haven't found something where I'm like, I want to stick with this for a long time. But my biggest tip for editing is to just try and learn. There's definitely free resources on YouTube that you can watch for editing, but I just recently purchased an editing course, and it has actually helped me so much. And I've been a photographer for like 5 years, so I feel almost like I should have my editing down by now. But there was so much that I didn't know and that I didn't even realize that I didn't know. And so typically when I edit, I would just kind of mess around with the settings and just like guess at what I should fix. Like if I didn't like something, I would just guess and mess around until I fixed it how I liked it. But in this course that I bought, it really breaks down what specifically each setting is changing. And so then you know when you want to change something, what settings to change and what it's actually going to do to your photo. And so that's been really helpful. This course that I bought is from gpresets on Instagram, that's his name. And it's a Lightroom editing course, and it's called The Edit. That's the name of the course. I will link it in the show notes because I just think it's a great course and it's helped me a lot. And this is not like sponsored, it's not an affiliate link. I just genuinely really like this course. And if you're somebody who struggles with editing and you want to narrow down an editing style or just figure out what you're doing, then I would say check out this course. First question is, how do I keep my whites consistent? P.S. Love the pod. Thank you. That actually means so much. I love to hear that. So for whites, this is hard because so many things that you change in your editing settings affect your whites. But one thing that I love is the automatic white balance adjuster tool. It's like a eyedrop tool right in the beginning of the basic panels in Lightroom, and you can just click that and then drag it over to either a white color or a neutral color, and it will automatically adjust your white balance on your photos. So I use that all the time. The next question says, the editing aspect I struggle with the most is cropping. Any specific tips? It's crazy how much cropping an image can affect the feeling you get from the image. Cropping an image has so much power, and so it's a really good thing to learn how to crop your images. And I would say a good thing to learn would be composition. Learn your photo composition. Like the rule of thirds is a very popular one, splitting the photo into thirds, but there's a ton of different compositions to learn of where to put your subject and what kind of moods that's going to give. And when cropping an image, I would say the things to pay attention to are going to be, first of all, where you want to put your subject, so in the composition, but then also you want to make sure you're not cropping them in weird ways. Like you don't want to cut off their feet if you can help it. You want to try and keep either the full body or crop it like right above the knee or like right above the waist. There's certain spots in a photo you can crop it to make it look better, and you don't want to crop off like arms or hands. Like if their hands are down, you don't want to crop off their hand in a weird way because that just kind of gives a weird feeling. But one thing that's helped me a lot with this is watching photo critiques on YouTube. Just like watch other photographers critique photos because they'll often critique the cropping and even like submit your photos to be critiqued. I do photo critiques sometimes, mostly in my Facebook group, but it can be so helpful to just see your photos through a different perspective, because people often see stuff that we don't even think about. So to have someone else critique your photo can be super helpful. One person that I follow is John Snip. He's a photographer and he goes live sometimes on Instagram and does like roast. He's like photo roasts, like let me roast your profile. And it's basically a critique, and he'll critique your photos. And I had him do mine, and it changed my perspective of how I was cropping my images a lot, and it was very helpful. So, yeah, just check out some photo critiques, learn composition, and don't crop people in weird ways. Okay, next question says, do you use back button focus? I use it sometimes if I have to, but typically I just use my shutter button to focus. Like, you just push your shutter button and it focuses it for you, and that does a pretty good job. I shoot on Sony, and I feel like Sony is kind of known for their autofocus. It's very good, like their facial recognition, but sometimes it's hard to focus on an image when it doesn't have a face. Like, if the person is turned around, sometimes my camera won't know where to focus. And so in that case, if I need to like manually focus, then I will use a back button focus, but usually I don't need it. Next question says, flash. How the heck do you use one? I hate mine. I can't figure it out. I've been loving using my flash lately. I just got a flash kind of recently, a few months ago. I got the Godox. Oh, I might need to check what this is called so I don't say it wrong. Okay, I got the Godox V1S flash, and I love it. It's such a good flash. And I would not say I'm a flash expert, but I'll just share with you like some things that I think about when using flash. And I assume that you're meaning like an on-camera flash that you stick in your hot shoe, and not an off-camera like strobe light that you would use in the studio, because I haven't experimented a ton with those, but the on-camera flash I have is the Godox one that I just said. And for starters, I put it in the TTL mode, which I think is just like auto. It's like automatic flash. And so it basically does the adjustments for me, but that's really helpful. And then the other thing I think about with flash is you want to stay below your camera's sync speed, which is usually around 1/200 or 1/250. You don't want your shutter speed to be faster than that. Sometimes if your shutter speed is faster, then it's like your camera shutter will go off before your flash does, and then your photo will be like halfway lit up and halfway dark. Like, it'll do weird things like that. So you just want to make sure your shutter speed isn't too high. And with a flash, you usually don't need your shutter speed to be that high. And then my next tip for flash would be to try bouncing it off of a wall instead of pointing it directly at your subject. So if you have a flash that you can like adjust the direction it points, try pointing it like straight up or just at the wall instead of directly at your subject. It will give it a more evenly soft lighting, which it really just depends on like the style you're going for, because I do love direct flash. It gives it almost like a direct sun look, but just like experiment with different directions you're pointing your flash. Okay, next question is, how do you feel did I say that weird? I don't know. I think it's, how do you fill a background? How do you feel? Okay, sorry. How do you fill a background? Like, the model is taller than the backdrop, so I need to either fill or crop, but I don't want to crop the model's head off. This is a great question, and that's honestly so annoying. I hate fixing backdrops when they're too small for the subject that you're trying to capture. That can be really tedious to fix while editing, but the easiest way to fix it is Photoshop. So if you don't know Photoshop, it's a really good thing to learn, just like the basic adjustments in Photoshop. Photoshop's generative fill is really good. You would just like select the spot where the backdrop isn't, and then Photoshop will automatically fill in what it thinks should be there, and that does pretty good. Another good way is like the clone tool in Photoshop. There's definitely a lot of ways this can be done, but Lightroom is not the best at doing this, especially if it needs to work around like a head, like you said. If it's just like a blank wall, it's pretty good at generating what should be there, but I would say look up some YouTube videos for filling your background in Photoshop. And the next question, is there a way to save an overexposed photo? First, I would say make sure you're shooting in RAW because this will give you more to work with. So if you do get your photo like a little bit overexposed, it's going to be easier to save. My next tip, if you have like tried adjusting it in Lightroom, tried editing it, and it's just not looking good, maybe try putting it in black and white. I don't know, maybe that will make it usable, like as a last resort. Okay, how do you ask places/businesses for permission to do a photo shoot there? What a good question. I actually love this question, and I should probably make some videos about like asking for permission because I've been doing a lot of public photo shoots lately, and it's scary asking for permission to shoot in public places. This is like my least favorite part, but it also has helped me grow a lot. It's pushed me outside my comfort zone a lot. I would say my biggest tip for this is you have to be okay with rejection because as weird as it is, not everybody likes photos of their location, their place. It's always so weird to me when somebody like doesn't allow me to take photos or when there's just weird photo restrictions. I don't know. I'm like, why wouldn't you want photos? But it's definitely a thing and I have been rejected and it's scary and sad, especially if you really want to shoot there. But just be okay with rejection and then also be really open and upfront about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So tell them why you want to take the photos there. Maybe it's just to build your portfolio, or even if it's just for fun, or even like a school project. I feel like if you're in school, people usually are cool with school projects. Also, ensure then that you'll be very respectful of the people, the customers, if it's a business around, like you won't get them in your photos because nobody wants to be just like randomly photo bombed in a photo. And then you can even offer them something in exchange for taking photos there. So, like to be tagged in the photos, a little social media marketing, or send them the photos, tell them they can use them for whatever purposes, their website, social media, whatever they want. Or you can even ask them if they need photos of anything in particular, like ask them if you can give them some photos in exchange for shooting there. And this works great for like small businesses. Bigger corporations like Walmart can be a little bit trickier because they don't allow photos in there typically. And usually they don't care. Like I've gone to a few bigger places, Home Depot, Walmart, and like they don't really care, but sometimes they care. So that really just depends. I don't know. So I'll usually say something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm a photographer and I love your whatever reason I want to take photos there for." And then I'll say, I was wondering if you allow photos here or if you would allow me to do a photo shoot here. And then I also explain what I'll be doing because sometimes I have a model in like a really big dress and that's going to be something that's like very out there, very obvious. And I don't want them to be shocked when I just like bring this model in and she's like got this huge flashy dress on. So I'll explain to them like I'm going to be bringing a model and we'll be doing this. I did a photo shoot in a laundromat and I really wanted to like climb inside the washing machines and on the washer and stuff. And so I asked the owners, I was like, would it be okay if we climbed on top of the washers? And she was like, oh yeah, let me give you this ladder so you don't fall. And she pulled out like a little step ladder. And yeah, it was just so sweet. And it's just always better to ask for permission about that kind of stuff instead of getting yelled at later for doing it. So that's all the questions that you guys submitted. I have a few more tips I'll share with you, but I just want to say thank you so much for submitting a question because it's always so fun to me when I can interact with you and I don't just feel like I'm literally sitting here talking to myself. But I'll just share like a couple other tips with you. First is format your memory card because when I was very first starting, I didn't know like formatting your memory card was a thing. And it's so funny. I'm like a little embarrassed to share this, but I would go into my camera and one by one delete every single image, like 1,000 photos. I would click delete. Are you sure? Yes, delete. Okay, delete. Literally, that was how I deleted my photos. But formatting basically just like clears your memory card, it resets it and deletes all your photos. But it also can like reduce the risk of having corrupt files. And it's also good for if you're putting a new card into a camera because it like formats it for that camera and it will ensure compatibility with your camera. So, yeah, make sure you're formatting your memory cards, especially if you have like a really important photo shoot coming up, just format your card before the photo shoot. Okay, I'm gonna also share with you some of the tools that I use to manage my business because I feel like this is really popular questions with beginner photographers. First of all, for editing photos, I use Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. And those are what I edit my photos on. I use Aftershoot for culling my images. So, for picking the best images that I want to edit and to pull into Lightroom, I'll first bring my photos to Aftershoot and that will go through and like take out the bad photos. And then Honeybook is my client management system. Dubsado, I've heard, is another popular one. I've never tried it out personally, but I do love Honeybook. Unscripted is actually a really good one. I used Unscripted when I first started photography. It's a little bit more affordable and it has a lot of great stuff on there. I mostly switched to Honeybook because Honeybook allows you to make payment plans for your clients, which was a huge thing for me that I needed. So I switched over to Honeybook and I love it. And then for delivering my galleries, I use PicTime. And there's a ton of different amazing gallery delivery systems out there, but I've just been with PicTime for a long time and I love them. For my website, I made my website on Squarespace, and I think Squarespace is an amazing website platform and it's super easy, like especially if you don't know anything about website coding or websites, or if you just want it to be quick and easy. Squarespace is great. They have a lot of really good templates, but I am actually switching my website over to Showit. And the reason is because Showit is, I think it was made for photographers, or a lot of photographers use it at least, but it's just very aesthetic, but it's a little bit more complicated. Like there's a little more coding that goes into it, which is why I hired a website designer. But I'm switching to Showit just because I want a pretty aesthetic website, which Squarespace, you can definitely have a very aesthetic website on there too. But I just decided to make the switch, so I'll see how it goes. But I love Squarespace. Okay, and then my last tip for you is if you want your photos to stand out and you want to just enhance your photos and just have high quality work, then take the time to make the little editing tweaks and adjustments that are going to make your photos look better. Because editing, you can truly do so much to enhance your photo. And especially if you're like a fashion photographer, those photographers like spend a lot of time, I'm sure, retouching. How I truly elevate my photos is by spending time editing it and removing distracting things from the background, removing acne. I feel like that's a big one because I know that some photographers don't remove acne and that's a personal choice and that's fine. But I feel like removing somebody's acne is such a small thing that can enhance a photo so much. Because as somebody who has a lot of acne, I hate seeing it in photos. And that could just be a me problem. But I would just say spend the time it takes to remove their acne if that's something that you do, and like clean up the backdrop if there's footprints on the backdrop, if it's ripped or anywhere, just clean up the backdrop, the background, and just little tiny things you can take out make a big difference, and they're going to elevate your photos and probably make your clients more happy. So, okay, thanks for chatting with me, guys. I'm going to be in Vegas next week, actually, and I'm going to be recording my podcast in Vegas. So that will be kind of fun. My husband's mom lives in Vegas, so we're going over there to see her and stay with her. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.